Hi, this is Kevin. Welcome to my tutorial on installing PyCharm Professional on macOS. In this tutorial is intended for the use of the students who are in my Python course at the University of Illinois School of Information Sciences. And so my comments are really going to be geared to that audience. And if you're a YouTuber who found your way here, you're welcome to stay, but keep the focus of this content in mind. So here's what we're going to go over. Uh, First, we're going to make sure that a copy of macOS is up to date. Then we're going to address the question, what if you already have some version of PyCharm already installed? What to do? Okay. Uh, we're going to talk about how to get a JetBrains free educational license, which we can use for PyCharm Professional Edition. We're going to download the JetBrains Toolbox, which will allow us to install all the JetBrains tools easily. We're only going to install PyCharm Professional Edition, but you can install more. We're going to install the toolbox. Then with the toolbox installed, we're going to install a PyCharm Professional. I'm going to show you how you would update PyCharm Professional. And if it turns out that you already have the toolbox installed and you already had PyCharm Professional installed, I'll show you where to look to apply updates. And the very last thing, we're going to create a test PyCharm project and a program within it, so we can show that we succeeded at this activity. So let's begin by making sure that macOS is up to date. Okay, so here we are. We're in a macOS virtual machine. I'm using macOS 12.5. It's a virtual machine, so I can show you how to install things on a machine that doesn't already have them installed. How do you find out what version of the software you have and whether it needs updates applied? Well, go up to the left-hand corner and click on the Apple, and then pick About This Mac. Okay, and then you can see here that I've got macOS Monterey version 12.5. And there's a button for software updates. If we click that, it's going to tell me if I need an update. And if I needed one, then there'd be a button to download and install it. But as you can see, mine is already up to date. Okay. If yours isn't, well, this is a good time to bring it up to date. Students that come to me with problems that they have in installing software or getting it to run after they installed it. And a lot of times their problem is simply that they just don't have an up-to-date operating system. Okay, so we're going to want you to do that. So we can close out of that. Okay, so what to do if you already have some version of PyCharm installed? Okay, well, we're going to install and use PyCharm Professional Edition. There are 3 versions of PyCharm. There's Professional Edition, there's the educational version, which is called PyCharm Edu, and then there's the uh, community edition. Um, the paid version that has all the features that we're going to need for this course is a PyCharm Professional Edition. We're going to install it in a particular way using this thing called the Jetbrains Toolbox. Okay. If you already have the JetBrains Toolbox installed, well, fine. We'll eventually come along and we'll do the update. So if you installed the toolbox and you've also installed PyCharm Professional, well, then just kind of hang on and follow along till we get to the update. But if you have another version installed, well, just leave it there. Or if you have PyCharm Professional installed, but you didn't install it with the toolbox, well, just leave that there too. And follow along with us so we can get everybody in the class in the same position with respect to this particular software. Okay. Now the next thing is we need to get a JetBrains free educational license. So how are we going to do that? Well, in your weekly schedule somewhere, there'll be an activity. This is the one from the course I taught in the summer. There's a link here, JetBrains free individual licenses for students and faculty members. So if you click on this, okay, you'll see free educational licenses. And essentially, they'll give us a free educational license as long as we have a university email address. Okay, that's they give it to us for like 1 year at a time, and when you go to renew, you still have to have that university email address. So if you scroll down, not quite to the bottom, there's an Apply Now button. And you get a form that comes up where you say, I'm a student or I'm a teacher, what level, what's your major, what's your email address, and it needs to be a .edu email, your real name, some other kinds of things, and you apply for free products. You should get a response email pretty quickly. Okay, I remember getting mine the same day. There was a time when there was a little delay, but you should get it pretty quickly. Okay. In fact, you might get it immediately. I can't do it and test it out because I already have one. Okay, so that's where you go and how you apply. Okay, so let's say that now we've gotten our free educational license from the good folks at JetBrains. Okay, now we need to download this piece of software called the JetBrains Toolbox. So let's figure out how to do that. Okay, so let's pop up the browser here. We're going to use Safari, and let's go to their website, jetbrains, all one word.com. Okay, and when we get an educational license, we get the opportunity to create an account at jetbrains.com, and right now we're going to need to log into that. So we're going to click on the person icon, and we get the login. And I'm going to type in my university email address. And you would type in yours. And I'm going to type in the password. Okay. And we're getting close here. And normally I wouldn't tell a browser to save the password. What I'm going to need it again, and I can't copy paste it because I'm working in two different machines. So again, I'm not going to recommend that you do this, but I'm going to do it. Going to save the password. So I have licenses that I've used over the years. I guess the first the product I used on one of these educational licenses was called RubyMine. That's way back in 2014. Okay, and this JetBrains product pack I've been renewing for years and years and years. Right now, mine is renewed through the end of January 2023. And typically, when you're getting close to the expiration date, you can just kind of reapply, and they'll extend it. And again, the key thing is, do you still have a university email address? Okay, so if you want to just install a particular product, all right, and not include this JetBrains Toolbox, you could click on the product, but we're not going to do that. Instead, right under the title, there's a link for download. So click on that and you get a list of products, but at the very bottom is get the Toolbox app. So click on Toolbox app. And we can hear my grandson up in the kitchen having some bad behavior. I apologize for that. Okay, so here we're going to download the .dmg. So we're going to download, and we're going to allow. Okay. And now we're going to go to downloads. And you can see it here at JetBrains Toolbox. And we're just going to, double click. So we double click it, and I'm going to grab this JetBrains Toolbox icon on the left and drag it over the application folder and drop it. And I'm going to pause and see if I can quiet my grandson. I'll be back. All right. Well, my grandson Jack is now out the door, apparently, and it's peaceful here at Casa Trainer, so we're going to start again. So the last thing that we did is that we dragged the toolbox icon into the applications folder. So that should have installed it. Okay. Now, how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to, while we're in the Finder, let's click on Applications. And there under J is JetBrains Toolbox. We're going to double click it and agree to open it. And we're going to click on Continue. And I'll check the box that we will send them anonymous statistics. And we'll click on Accept. And I'll take the default configuration and click on Get Started. Okay. And it says that you find your tool in this list, so we're going to click on Got It. And right here is PyCharm Professional. Now, I told you that there are 3 versions of PyCharm. We're going to install PyCharm Professional. There is a PyCharm community, which is the free version. A PyCharm Professional has the most capability and is the paid version. It's free to us as long as we're at the university. PyCharm Community has fewer features, but it's free all the time. And then if we come down, there's a PyCharm Edu. Okay, and it's free as well and has some kind of learning management features that I don't find appealing. But of course, it doesn't have all the features that we need either. You can have all three of these installed at the same time. There are three distinct products. If you install all three of them from the toolbox here, you'll get three installed products. You can run them. I'm only going to recommend at this point that you install PyCharm Professional. Okay. There are some other products too. IntelliJ IDEA is in an IDE, an integrated development environment for Java. DataSpell is some kind of an IDE for data scientists that does some work with Jupyter notebooks, and I've not had an opportunity to check that out. WebStorm is for some web development. There's a whole bunch of things here, right? Okay. Again, all we're going to do is we're going to go to PyCharm Professional, come over to Install, and click the button. Okay. I'm going to clear this message up here. And what happens is the things that you install wind up on a short list at the top. Okay. And you can watch them install. They install fairly quickly on my machine, which is a pretty fast machine. At least I'm going to claim that. Okay, so now I'm just going to click the button for got it. And this is it. So remember how I said I would tell you how to do an update? Oh, okay. If you have PyCharm Professional installed, okay, whatever products you have installed will be on this installed short list. And if there is an update to install them, just like we have these install buttons, you'll see a button for update right here. Okay. And then you click on update and you'll watch it update just like we just saw the install. And you'll be done. And I think if there's more than one thing to update, there's a link for update all. And every once in a while we get a new version of the toolbox, and you'll get a link up here in this kind of title area to update the toolbox. Okay. And that is that. Okay. Now, what if you wanted to open up a toolbox again? Well, it turns out if you look up in this menu area off to the right, you typically have things that are loaded all the time, and Jetbrains Toolbox is loaded all the time. It has an icon that looks like a cube, and if you click on it, it pops up the window that we just saw. Now, we currently don't have a link to PyCharm Professional down in the dock. So let's click on the name of the application in Toolbox. That will open it. and you can see the icon popping up down here on the dock. Okay, and it's going to pop up a dialog box pretty soon. Okay, and so let's say I'm going to agree to send anonymous statistics. Okay, and then I'm going to say do not import any settings. I don't have any to import. And now that's going to start up. The version that we're using is 2022.2. In a given year, they have 2 or 3 versions. So this is the second full version that came out this year. And we have all kinds of things having to do with licensing. But before we do that, before we forget, let's go down to the dock. Okay, hover over the icon for PyCharm Professional. Right click and choose Options, Keep in Dock. Okay, so now it's always going to be there in the dock and easy to start. Okay, and the easiest way for them to see a license is to log in to our Jetbrains account. So let's click this button. Okay, now one of the reasons why I saved the login information is I have to log in again. Now, saving your login information in your browser is not the most secure thing to do on my machine when I'm not inside of a virtual machine. I've got a password manager application that I use, but here I'm going to take the easy way out and just sign in again. And it was able to check and see that I had a license, and it's successful, and it tells me that I can close the page. Okay, and now I can just click in the lower right on exit. Okay, and I should be okay. All right, so I'm going to close all these things. And you can see I have my PyCharm icon down in the dock. So let's give it a click. And it should be firing up PyCharm Professional, and it did. And here we go. We're ready to start our first project. Okay, so later on, when you're getting ready to do the first coding assignment for the class, I'll give you more specific instructions about where to keep particular directories and all that kind of stuff. But for now, okay, let's just create a test project. Let's say we're here. Okay, so we installed PyCharm Professional. We saw how we would update if there was a pending update, and now we're just going to create our test PyCharm project. Okay, so we're going to click on New Project, and by default, it creates a directory under your home directory called PyCharm projects. Okay, and this last name is what the name of the project is going to be. So we don't want everything to be called Python project. Okay, so let's just call this, I'm going to call it, and again, we name our projects with typical Python snake case. All lowercase, words separated by underscores. So I'm going to call this my underscore first PyCharm test. Okay. Now, remember the virtual environment that we created when we installed Anaconda? Well, now we want to connect up to that. Okay. Now, let's just refresh our memory about where that is, okay? All right, so let's go down to the dock and click on the icon for the terminal. Okay, so here we go, and let's make the type a little bigger with Shift Command plus a couple times. That's good. Okay, and we can see that we're in the base virtual environment. So we don't want to do anything in a virtual environment here in the command line, but we do want to see what virtual environments have been created and in what directory they've been placed. So let's type in conda info dash dash envs, envs, and we can see that we have this E4Trainer Python course. That's the one that we want to use. And if we want to navigate to it, we can see it's in opt Anaconda 3 envs E4Trainer Python course. So that's where we're eventually going to go. All right, that looks good. Let's minimize that in case we want to come back. And for some reason, when I minimize the terminal in this virtual machine, it doesn't want to minimize very quickly. Okay, so do we want a new virtual environment or do we want a previously configured one? Previously configured, we've already created it. Okay. And the word interpreter and virtual environment are kind of used interchangeably here. It's the interpreter that we really want to point to. It's Python. We want to point to the Python that's inside of the right virtual environment directory. So that's why we're saying a previously configured interpreter. And we're going to click on this link over here for add interpreter. But while we're here, we're not going to want to create a main.py welcome script because that's not going to really do anything for us. So let's uncheck that while we think of it. Okay, and then again, previously configured interpreter, click that radio button, and over here on add interpreter, click the link. And then we want to pick add local interpreter. Okay, so now we get into a general dialogue. So there's more than one way to create a virtual environment. There's more than one product that you can use. We're going to be using Conda, so we click on Conda. Okay, and the interpreter, this is what we're going to point to. We're going to point to the Python interpreter within the virtual environment. So first of all, we might click the drop down and see if the one we want is here. Yeah, it is here. So you could just simply click on this E4Trainer Python course. But what if it wasn't here and you had to navigate to it? Okay, so here's what you do to navigate to it. Click on the icon for ... Okay, and here it shows you we're in users/trainer1. Okay, and where are we trying to get to? Let's remind ourselves. Yeah, sorry. We're trying to get to opt Anaconda 3 envs E4Trainer Python course. Okay, let's look at where that is. And again, that's going to take a little bit longer than it should to get out of there. Okay, so opt Anaconda 3 envs E for trainer Python course. And the thing to remember, we're not just pointing at the directory that holds the virtual environment. We want to point to the interpreter, the copy of Python that we want. So on the Mac, the interpreters are in the bin directory. That's where the executables are. So we're going to open up that. And the one that we want is just called Python. So they're in alphabetical order. Get down here to the P's. Okay, and there's a lot of Py stuff. Okay, and there's stuff like Python 3.1, Python 3.10. We don't want anything like that. We want to point to this Python that has the icon to the left that has a question mark over it. Now these things are really, they're really pointers to files that are in other directories, but we want the entry that just says Python. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, and we're going to click OK. Okay, and so then you can see that's what we're pointing to. That's the interpreter within the virtual env. So now we're going to click OK. Okay, and now we can see it here. Okay, and now we can click Create. Okay, so here's our project. Now, one way to know what interpreter or virtual environment you're connected to is down here in the lower right. You either have an error message that says that you're not properly connected, it'll say like no interpreter, or you can see the name of the virtual env that you have, and that's the one that we want. It's a Python 3.10 interpreter called E for Trainer Python course. Okay, so before we leave here, we're just going to create one very simple program. So how do we do that? Well, we come up here to the name of the project in the navigation panel, and we right click and we choose new, and then we pick Python file, and now we're going to type in the name of the Python program without the .py suffix, and we're going to call ours Goodbye Cruel World. Now this is kind of a joke. Historically, when you teach new programmers a new language, the first thing that you teach them is how to print hello world. Well, that's a little bit worn out. So my version is Goodbye Cruel World. Okay, so we type in the name, no .py at the end, enter, and we'll see it's going to pop up. The file is going to be in the list of files in the project, and here it's open the editor, and it's on the first line of the file. Now the first line of the file we're going to see as we get into the course is going to have a special kind of comment called a doc string, and it begins oddly enough with 3 double quotes. So double quote, double quote, double quote. And as is typical with the editor, when you put in one quote, it matches it on the other side. So now we're in the middle of 2 sets of triple quotes. And what we do in a doc string is we describe the intention of the program. And we're going to call this first Python demonstration program. I guess this is what it really is. Okay? So that's it. And then we're going to have 2 blank lines. And then on the next line, we're going to define this thing we call a function. Functions are kind of holders for code. So how do we define one? With def and space, and then the name of the function. This one has a special name called main, M-A-I-N. And after the name of the function are empty parentheses. If you type the left, it will insert the right. And right after that, there's a colon. Okay, so that defines the main function. We're going to learn about functions throughout chapters 1 through 6. So we're going to learn a lot about that. But for right now, just follow along. And then on the next line, indented, we have a block of code, at least the beginning of a block of code. And we're just going to put print and then left paren and see how it matched it with the right. And an apostrophe. Apostrophes are kind of the modern way to enclose a character string. So we're going to print a character string, and we're going to say goodbye, comma, cruel world, exclamation. Okay? And that's it. Now, that function only has a single line of code. That's what we call the body of the function, a code block of one line of code. And then after a function, we need 2 blank lines. Okay, and then we're going to have a call to the function main right there. And we're going to have a carriage return, which creates the last line of the file is a blank empty line. Okay, and that's it. Now it looks kind of sparse, right? Because we don't have a lot of functions having 2 blank lines before and 2 blank lines after. It makes it look kind of lonely. But what's going to happen is when we say def main, it's going to remember the code that's in the function main. And then when we have a call to main, it's going to execute it. And when that happens, it's going to print goodbye, cruel world. Okay, so all that's left is to run the program. Now, what's interesting is this version of PyCharm I've only been using for a little bit less than a week. They just came out with the most recent 2.2 PyCharm update. So you used to be able to just, within the editor, you used to be able to right click and say run goodbye cruel world. And this seems to work right now in this version. So let's do that. Let's say run goodbye cruel world. Okay, and that runs. So what it does is it pops up a window that kind of is emulating the command line console. So when we print something, it prints out at on the console. Okay, and what we do is we're just kind of emulating the console right here. So you can see we got goodbye cruel world, which is what we printed, and then we get a message that the program finished with xcode 0, which means that that was a healthy program end. So that looks good. Well, what if you right-clicked and you didn't see that option? Okay, well, let me answer another question first. What if you were working on a program and you're going to run it more than one time? Why would you do that? Well, let's print that 2 times. So we're going to copy, and we're going to paste, and we're going to put that there. Yeah, that looks good. Now, do I have to right-click and say run every time? No. After I've run it the first time, it's loaded up this thing called the configuration, so it knows which one I want. And right down here on this console panel, there's a play button. So we can just click that and it runs it again. You see, we ran the new version. Then we go, oh no, I only want to goodbye a cruel world a single time. Okay, let's highlight it and delete it. Okay, and get rid of the extra line. And now we can come back One of the interesting things about PyCharm is you don't explicitly have to save the file. You don't have to click a save icon. You just need to click off of the line that you changed. So for instance, you click at the end, it'll do an auto save. And now we can come down and just press the play button again, and now we've got one line. Now, I think in the Windows version, I'm going to be recording that in a minute or two. I was right clicking over here and I didn't always see this run goodbye cruel world. And if you should get into that situation, there's another place to find it. So let's close the window that's emulating the console. And up on the menu here for the application, we can click on run, and then we can pick run goodbye cruel world, and that will do the same thing. You know, there's usually 2 or 3 different ways to do the same thing. So that's it. That's a successful project. Okay, and we've done everything that we set out to do. So I'm going to say bye until next time. Bye bye.